Have you ever felt that strange, nagging sensation that there's something more to life, something profound and meaningful hiding just beyond the veil of your daily existence? That feeling isn't random. It's a sign you're beginning to awaken. Not everyone is ready for what you're about to hear today. Some will dismiss these words entirely, others will listen but remain frozen in place, unwilling to take action. But for a select few, perhaps you, these words will ignite a fire within that cannot be extinguished. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when something resonates so deeply, it feels like it was meant specifically for you. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. I've walked paths where silence weighs more than words, where empty gazes hide broken dreams, and where time seems to devour the hopes of those who once believed they were capable of more. I've witnessed people surrender just moments before their miracle arrived. I've seen others reborn amidst chaos, and I understood something profound. It isn't luck, destiny, or opportunity that separates the great from the rest. It's the courage to look at your own reflection and decide to change it. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might just be the key that unlocks the cage you've been living in. We all reach that critical moment eventually when the noise of the world becomes unbearable. The endless cycle of work, mounting debts, monotonous routines, and the exhausting search for others' approval transforms into a prison of our own making. And in that cage, we suddenly realize we've forgotten something essential: who we truly are. Have you ever looked in the mirror and failed to recognize the reflection staring back at you, that feeling of being alive but without life? This is the awakening call that many hear but few answer. It's that gentle but firm voice from within saying, "Wake up, there's more." Not the voice of others, but your own soul speaking. The same voice you've been ignoring that whispers there's more for you than mere survival. What's fascinating is what happens when you finally listen to this voice. Something inside begins to burn, a fire of awakening, a reminder that the power you've been seeking was never external, but hidden beneath layers of fear, habit, and forgetfulness. The universe always whispers before it shouts. It sends signals, people, phrases, impossible coincidences your way. And when you don't listen, it pushes you. Sometimes through pain, sometimes through loss, sometimes through a silence so deep, it forces you to look within. That's the true calling. That true calling arrives when life itself seems to stop making sense, but only because you're standing at the threshold of discovering your authentic purpose. It's a profound paradox of the human journey. We often feel most lost right before finding our way. The awakening rarely announces itself with fanfare. Instead, it emerges as that gentle but persistent voice from within whispering, "Wake up." Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, but now. This voice isn't some external guide or spiritual entity. It's the authentic core of your being, your soul speaking directly to you after being silenced for too long. What's remarkable about this inner wisdom is how universal yet deeply personal it feels. The language of the soul is unmistakable once you recognize it. It doesn't speak in complicated terms or demand impossible transformations. It simply reminds you of a forgotten truth, that you weren't born merely to survive, to pay bills, to blend in. You were born to create, to experience, to fully express your unique essence in this world. If this message resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community of awakened souls on this journey of transformation. The moment you finally listen to this voice, everything shifts. It's like turning on a light in a room you've navigated in darkness for years. Suddenly, what was familiar appears entirely different, not because it changed, but because you're seeing with new awareness. This illumination ignites something within, a flame that once lit, changes how you perceive every aspect of your existence. This internal revolution isn't always comfortable. In fact, the awakening often brings an initial phase of discomfort as you begin recognizing the misalignments in your life, relationships that drain rather than nourish you, work that pays the bills but starves your soul, beliefs that were installed in your mind rather than chosen by your heart. Meanwhile, the universe has been patiently trying to communicate with you all along. Those recurring coincidences? Not random. That book that fell off the shelf? Not an accident. That stranger who said exactly what you needed to hear? Not a chance meeting. The universe speaks in patterns, in synchronicities that become visible only when you're ready to perceive them. The hidden truth that few discover is that these signals intensify when you're approaching a significant threshold in your journey. The universe begins with gentle nudges, whispers that are easy to dismiss if you're not paying attention. A feeling of restlessness when you're pursuing the wrong path. A surge of energy when you're aligned with your purpose. These subtle indicators are the universe's first language. But what happens when you ignore these whispers? This is where the profound intelligence of life reveals itself. The universe doesn't give up on you, it simply adjusts its volume. What began as a whisper becomes a tap on the shoulder, then perhaps an uncomfortable situation, and eventually, if necessary, a complete upheaval of your current reality. This escalation isn't punishment, it's guidance born of compassion. Sometimes the greatest revelations come wrapped in the most challenging experiences. The job loss that forces you to pursue your passion, the relationship ending that returns you to yourself, the illness that teaches you the preciousness of health and time. These moments of impact aren't random, cruel twists of fate, but course corrections on your journey to awakening. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens when you stand at that critical threshold between who you've been and who you're capable of becoming. Because this is where many turn back, where fear disguises itself as practicality, where the mind creates elaborate stories about why staying asleep is safer than waking up. If you recognize this voice inside you, if you've felt that stirring of something greater, calling you to a more authentic expression of yourself, write in the comments, "I hear the calling." Let's acknowledge together that we're not alone in this profound awakening that's unfolding in so many lives right now. This threshold, this edge where transformation begins, is often marked by an unexpected guardian: fear. But here's where most people fundamentally misunderstand fear's true nature. Fear isn't a shadow that exists independently. It only appears when you've moved away from your own light. This revelation changed everything for me. I discovered this truth on a day when I finally decided to look at my fears directly, not with blind courage, but with genuine curiosity. I wanted to understand why. Each time I was about to advance towards something meaningful, something invisible seemed to hold me back. A voice would whisper, "Don't take that step. You're not ready. What if you fail?" But that day I realized something that altered my entire mindset about fear. That voice wasn't my enemy, it was my guardian. Fear doesn't emerge to prevent your progress. It appears to ask if you're truly willing to move forward. It's essentially the doorkeeper standing at the entrance to new beginnings, testing your resolve, your commitment to your journey. When I understood this, I stopped running from my fears and began observing them instead. And something remarkable happened. The fear trembled and gradually transformed. It was no longer a shadow, but a key that opened the path to my expansion. The profound revelation that changed my relationship with fear was this: the error isn't having fear, the error is obeying it. Without question, because behind every fear you face, there's a gift waiting to be claimed. And that gift is freedom. Freedom from limitation. freedom from the past, freedom to step into the person you're meant to become. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you stopped yourself because you feared you weren't enough? How many opportunities have you let pass by because you feared failure? How many times have you silenced your truth because you feared judgment? Each of these fears represented a door you chose not to open, and each closed door was a lesson the universe placed on pause, patiently waiting for your return when you're ready to receive it. What makes this perspective so revolutionary is recognizing that fear is actually the boundary line, the exact demarcation point between who you currently are and who you're destined to become. This understanding transforms fear from an obstacle into a signpost, pointing precisely to where your growth awaits. The very presence of fear becomes a compass showing you exactly which direction leads to your expansion. The hidden truth behind personal transformation is that your fears map the exact territory of your potential. They aren't random anxieties, they're precisely calibrated indicators of your next evolution. This is why the things that frighten you most are often the exact things you need to pursue. The career change that terrifies you, the relationship pattern that scares you to break, the creative expression that makes you vulnerable. These aren't warnings to retreat, they're invitations to advance. Behind the scenes of every meaningful achievement in human history, someone faced a fear and walked through it anyway. The masterful artist who first showed their work despite criticism, the entrepreneur who launched despite financial uncertainty, the speaker who stepped on stage despite trembling hands. They all discovered that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to see fear as a doorway, rather than a wall. What's truly fascinating is that once you step through that door of fear, once you cross that threshold, what you discover on the other side isn't more fear, but certainty. Because when you cross through fear, what you find isn't just strength, it's your true identity. You realize that you were always capable, always worthy, always enough. You just couldn't see it while standing on the wrong side of the door. And so I invite you to look at your fears differently now, to recognize them not as warnings, but as waypoints on your map of growth. What if the very things you've been avoiding are precisely what would set you free? What if your journey of awakening requires not the elimination of fear, but a new relationship with it? Let's explore how this new perspective on fear connects to the deeper journey of discovering your purpose. How each fear you face and move through actually brings you closer to living the life you were meant to live. If this understanding of fear as a doorway resonates with you, write in the comments, "I'm ready to cross the threshold," because naming your willingness is the first step toward transforming your relationship with fear. This understanding of fear as a gateway rather than an obstacle invites us to practice a powerful visualization that can transform how we experience our fears in real time. I want to guide you through this exercise right now, one that has helped countless people move through their most paralyzing fears. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing before a massive dark wall. This isn't just any wall, it's constructed of individual bricks, and each brick carries a label written in glowing script. Fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear of change, fear of not being enough. Look closely at these bricks. Which ones resonate most deeply with you? Which feel most solid and impenetrable? Now, imagine extending your hand toward this imposing structure. As you do, notice a warm, golden light beginning to radiate from the center of your chest. This light isn't coming from outside you. It's emanating from your essence, your core, your true self. Watch as this light travels down your arm and touches the dark wall. What happens next defies everything you've believed about your fears. The wall doesn't crumble dramatically or explode into dust. It simply dissolves, revealing itself as the illusion it always was. The fears that seemed so solid, so real, so insurmountable were simply projections of thought given power through belief. The moment you touch them with the light of awareness and love, they cannot maintain their form. This visualization isn't merely a pleasant mental exercise, it's a revelation of truth. Fear cannot exist where there is consciousness. It only needs to be seen with love, and when you do this, it disappears, not because you've defeated it, but because you've integrated it. You've recognized its message and reclaimed the energy it was holding. This breakthrough understanding of fear naturally leads us to a deeper revelation about purpose. There comes an extraordinary moment in life when the soul whispers something that the rational mind simply cannot comprehend. In this sacred instant, everything that previously seemed important, career milestones, social status, material possessions, suddenly fades into the background, leaving only one burning question that consumes your entire being. Why am I here? This profound question doesn't arise randomly. It surfaces precisely when you're prepared to receive its answer, when you've cleared enough of the fear-based illusions that were obscuring your vision. Because contrary to popular belief, purpose isn't something you discover through external searching or logical deduction. Purpose is something you remember. This distinction between learning and remembering represents a fundamental shift in how we understand our journey. Purpose isn't a skill to acquire or a destination to reach. It's an intrinsic knowing that's been written in the deepest chambers of your being long before you were born. It's been there all along, patiently waiting beneath layers of conditioning, expectation, and fear. The amnesia of purpose happens gradually. The noise of the world, the demands of survival, the voices of others slowly but steadily drown out that original knowing until you've forgotten what you came here to be and do. The awakening process is simply the reversal of this forgetting, the remembering of what was always there. What's most fascinating about this remembering is that it doesn't happen through intellectual effort. You can't think your way to purpose. It emerges through silence, through presence, through moments of connection with your authentic self. It reveals itself in those activities that make you lose track of time, in the causes that move you to tears, in the work that energizes rather than depletes you. The journey of awakening to purpose begins with creating space for this remembering to occur. It requires clearing away the distractions and defenses that keep you disconnected from your deepest truth. Each fear you face and move through actually creates more space for your purpose to reveal itself, which is why the path through fear and the path to purpose are not separate journeys, but a single, unfolding process. Let me ask you this. What if the purpose that would most fulfill you isn't something you need to construct or achieve, but something you simply need to remember and allow? What if it's been calling to you all along through the whispers of your heart, the nudges of your intuition, and even through the fears that mark the boundary of your expansion? If you can feel that whisper of purpose stirring within you now, write in the comments, "I'm awakening to my purpose," because naming that awareness is the first step in amplifying its presence in your life. The beautiful paradox of purpose is that while it feels like the most personal journey you'll ever undertake, it's also a universal force that operates through each of us in unique ways. Every single person walking this earth carries a mission, but not in the way many understand it. This isn't an assigned task or an obligation imposed from outside. Your purpose is an internal force, an innate guidance system as personal as your fingerprint, yet connected to something far greater than yourself. Think of purpose as an invisible compass that's always pointing toward your soul's true north. It doesn't shout, it beckons, it doesn't demand, it invites. The fascinating reality many discover too late is that your purpose isn't something you choose from a catalogue of possibilities. Rather, it's something that has already chosen you. It was encoded into the very fabric of your being before your first breath. I've observed a peculiar pattern in those who resist their purpose. The more you run from it, the heavier your path becomes. It's as if the universe adds weight to the journey that takes you away from yourself. Obstacles multiply, energy diminishes, and that sense of meaninglessness grows more profound. But when you finally surrender and embrace your purpose, even if it defies logic, even if it doesn't promise security, something miraculous occurs. The entire universe begins conspiring in your favor. This conspiracy isn't mystical thinking, it's the natural alignment of inner and outer reality. Doors open that were previously invisible, people appear bearing exactly what you need. Resources materialize. The synchronicities become so frequent they can no longer be dismissed as coincidence. This isn't the universe rewarding you, it's simply the removing of resistance between your path and your potential. The revelation that transformed my own journey came when I stopped looking for purpose in grandiose visions and started noticing the subtle fingerprints it was already leaving in my daily experience. Your purpose leaves tracks if you know how to read them. The most reliable signs are hidden in plain sight within your natural inclinations and responses to life. What activity causes you to lose all sense of time? When do you find yourself in that state of flow where hours pass like minutes? What subject or cause makes your heart beat stronger when you encounter it? What work energizes you rather than depletes you? These aren't random preferences, they're the footprints of purpose walking through your life, beckoning you to follow. It's no accident or coincidence what you naturally feel drawn toward. Your passions aren't arbitrary, they're the voice of your essence asking for expression through you. They're the universe speaking in code, using the language of desire and enthusiasm to guide you toward your highest contribution. Many dismiss these signals as impractical distractions or unrealistic dreams, never realizing they're discarding the very breadcrumbs designed to lead them home. Perhaps the most liberating truth about purpose is that it rarely requires what we think it does. Many imagine purpose must involve fame, wealth, or changing the world on a massive scale. This misunderstanding keeps countless people from recognizing the profound purpose already available to them. True purpose isn't about magnitude, it's about meaning. It's about transforming ordinary moments into sacred experiences through the quality of presence and intention you bring to them. Ready to continue this journey of awakening? Subscribe now and let's walk this path of conscious creation together. The teacher who fully sees a struggling student, the artist who channels truth through their work, the parent who creates a haven of acceptance, the friend who listens without judgment. These seemingly small acts contain the entirety of purpose within them. Purpose isn't measured by how many people know your name, but by how fully you express your authentic essence in whatever arena life has placed you. The revolutionary insight here is that purpose isn't something you achieve or arrive at someday in the future. It's available in this very moment through the way you choose to show up in your life exactly as it is. Purpose isn't waiting for perfect circumstances. It's waiting for your permission to infuse the circumstances you already have. This understanding liberates us from the paralysis of waiting and wondering. It transforms purpose from a distant destination into an immediate practice, the practice of bringing your full self to each moment, each interaction, each creation. If you feel a quickening in your heart as these words land, if something within you is recognizing its own truth, write in the comments, "I'm embracing my purpose now." Because the moment you claim this awareness is the moment your purpose begins flowing through you with greater clarity and power. Now, I want to go even deeper into the catalyst that transforms purpose from potential into reality, the power of decision. There exists a profound moment in every awakening journey where something remarkable occurs. The universe stops speaking to you in whispers and begins to speak in silence. This silence isn't empty, it's pregnant with possibility. It's not the absence of guidance, but rather its purest form, an invitation for you to step forward and declare your intentions with absolute clarity. This silence is sacred because it marks the threshold where the universe is essentially saying, I've shown you the signs. I've sent you the messages. Now it's time for you to choose. Because everything you've ever dreamed of, every transformation, every achievement, every expression of your authentic self, lies on the other side of a single threshold, a firm, uncompromising decision. But here's where most people fundamentally misunderstand the nature of true decision. A genuine decision isn't a mental exercise or a casual intention. It isn't something you think about, write in a journal, or discuss with friends. A real decision is a total commitment made with your entire being, where your mind, heart, spirit, and body all align in a singular direction with no backup plan, no safety net, no alternative consideration. I learned this distinction during a period of profound darkness in my own journey. For years, I had been asking the universe for signs, waiting for perfect conditions, hoping the fear would dissolve before I needed to act. But that day, something shifted. I understood that the universe doesn't respond to questions. It responds to clear orders from the soul. And a decision made with your whole self is exactly that, a command to the invisible forces that shape reality. When you decide from this level of commitment, the world around you begins to move. People who can help you suddenly appear. Resources you didn't know existed become available. Obstacles that seemed insurmountable transform into stepping stones, not because the external world changed, but because your internal landscape transformed. Completely, the revelatory insight is this. When you truly decide, when you commit with absolute conviction, the universe arranges itself under your feet. But here's the crucial detail that most miss. This arrangement doesn't happen before you step forward, nor does it wait until after you've proven yourself. It happens precisely at the moment you take the step. It's as if the ground forms beneath you only when you have the courage to move without seeing it first. This is the magic hidden within. Authentic decision. It doesn't require certainty about the outcome. It doesn't demand knowing if you can achieve the goal. It simply requires knowing that you will, regardless of what obstacles appear. The how becomes irrelevant when the why is powerful enough. The path reveals itself not to those who can see the end, but to those who take the first step in faith. I witnessed this firsthand when I made my first significant decision during a time of complete uncertainty. I had no guarantees, no security, no assurances, only an inner voice saying, trust. It felt like leaping without seeing the ground. But the moment I jumped, the ground appeared. That's the alchemy of deciding. Not calculating odds, but creating new possibilities through the sheer force of commitment. Behind the scenes of every remarkable transformation, every business built from nothing, every artistic masterpiece, every movement that changed the world, you'll find the same foundation. Someone who decided with their whole being before they had evidence it was possible. They didn't wait for the path to appear and then walk. They walked and then watched as the path formed beneath their feet. This understanding revolutionizes how we approach change. The question shifts from, can I do this, to am I decided? Because when the soul truly commits, the universe has no choice but to obey. It's not mystical thinking, but a fundamental principle of energy. Clarity creates movement, and total commitment generates forces we cannot see, but inevitably experience. What are you currently postponing because you're waiting for certainty? What dream remains unfulfilled because you're waiting for fear to disappear first? That waiting isn't caution, it's hesitation in disguise. The moment of complete clarity you're waiting for doesn't come before the decision. It arrives as a result of it. If this resonates with your journey right now, write in the comments. Today, I decide. Because putting those words into the world is itself an act of power, a declaration that ripples through the fabric of what's possible in your life. The power of decision transforms potential into action. But now I want to explore the fundamental law that shapes how those decisions manifest in our lives. Since the dawn of human wisdom, there's been a profound teaching whispered in temples and shared among sages in deserts and mountains. As you think, so you create. Many encounter this idea as a spiritual metaphor or motivational concept, but the revolutionary understanding is that this is neither metaphor nor mere philosophy. It's an immutable law that forms the very fabric of our universe. This principle functions with the same precision and reliability as gravity. Just as a seed contains the blueprint of an entire tree, a thought contains the essence of its physical manifestation. Everything you can see in the tangible world, the mountains, cities, technologies, and yes, the circumstances of your own life, began as a thought, a mental spark that, when sustained and energized through repetition, gradually solidified into physical form. I discovered this truth one night while observing the stars. In that moment of clarity, I realized something that would forever change my trajectory. My mind wasn't just interpreting reality, it was creating it. Every belief, emotion, and mental image I held within was being projected outward, manifesting as my external circumstances. It wasn't coincidence or random chance. It was reflection, a perfect, precise law. The human mind operates like a silent but extraordinarily powerful magnet. But here's the crucial insight that separates those who transform their reality from those who remain trapped in cycles of frustration. Your mind doesn't attract what you desire, it attracts what you believe. This single distinction has the power to either transform or destroy lives. You can desire abundance while believing in scarcity, but your reality will always align with your belief rather than your wish. The universe responds not to the words you speak or even the goals you set, but to the vibrational frequency you maintain through your consistent thoughts and feelings. This explains why two people can pursue identical goals with vastly different outcomes. One operates from a foundation of certainty, the other from a place of doubt, and the universe, like a mirror, simply reflects back the dominant energy. This mirror doesn't differentiate between what you consider positive or negative thoughts. It simply responds to whatever you feed it most consistently. Each thought you nurture is a seed planted in the fertile soil of universal energy. But what truly brings these seeds to life is the emotional energy you attach to them. Emotion is the water that accelerates growth. A thought without emotion remains dormant, but a thought charged with feeling becomes a command to the universe. When you hold an image in your mind with unwavering faith and genuine emotional intensity, you're not just daydreaming. You're engaging in the oldest and most powerful form of creation. You may not see it immediately with your physical eyes, but energy is already reorganizing itself. Invisible fields are responding, and reality is reconfiguring according to your dominant mental patterns. The ancient wisdom traditions taught that humans are the artisans of their own destiny, precisely because everything surrounding you has been attracted by the frequency of your dominant thoughts. What you repeat silently to yourself before sleep, what you visualize with emotional intensity, what you fear or desire deeply, all of this imprints itself on the invisible substance of the universe. When you change your thought patterns, your world begins to shift, sometimes gradually, sometimes with surprising speed, but always with precision. The practical application of this understanding is revolutionary. Your life doesn't give you what you ask for with words. It gives you what you broadcast with your vibration. This is why affirmations without aligned belief often fail, while transformed beliefs, even without verbal declarations, create profound shifts in circumstances. Try this tomorrow morning. Before touching your phone or beginning your day, take a deep breath and say with feeling, "I am a creator. My thoughts are seeds." Feel the power behind these words. Because it's true, every thought is indeed a seed, and every emotion the water that helps it grow. If you're resonating with this fundamental law of creation, write in the comments, "My thoughts create my reality." By declaring this truth, you're actually activating the very principle we're discussing, using the power of your words to affirm a new level of conscious creation in your life. This understanding of thought as creative energy leads us to a profound paradox of transformation. The most powerful catalyst for change isn't more thinking, it's silence. When the noise of the world seemed to dominate my mind completely, I discovered something that shook my foundations. What we call silence isn't the absence of sound at all, but rather the presence of pure power. This revelation didn't come through study or seeking. It arrived in a moment when I finally turned everything off. No music, no phone, no voices, just the space of my own awareness. In that seemingly empty space, something remarkable happened. The silence wasn't vacant. It was vibrant, alive, pulsing with intelligence. I realized that when my mind was constantly filled with noise, worries about the future, regrets about the past, endless internal dialogues, I couldn't access the deeper wisdom that had always been available to me. The noise was blocking the messages of my soul, and the soul doesn't shout, it whispers through the medium of silence. In that silence, I discovered that every thought I sent into the universe was indeed a command, but the more I talked, the more chaotic the energy became. Mental noise confuses the creative force, while clarity emerges from stillness. It was then I understood one of the most counterintuitive principles of manifestation. The more you can quiet your mind, the more precise and powerful your creation becomes. This realization completely inverted how I approach transformation. Instead of adding more affirmations, more visualization exercises, more techniques, the breakthrough came through subtraction. By removing the mental clutter, I created space for clarity to emerge naturally. In silence, the mind aligns itself. In silence, energy cleanses and refines. In silence, the soul reveals what it has always known but couldn't communicate through the static. What's fascinating about this dimension of silence is that it doesn't represent passivity or withdrawal from creative power. Quite the opposite. Silence is the very language of creation itself. Everything that exists in our universe was born from silence. Before there was light, there was stillness. Before the Big Bang, there was the pregnant void. Before you dreamed of changing your life, there was a moment of silence between one thought and another, and in that microscopic gap, everything began. When you learn to inhabit that space of silence, you discover the exact point where things come into being. You touch the source from which abundance, intuition, and divine strength emerge. In silence, you hear pathways that you previously ignored. You notice signals that once seemed like mere coincidences. You feel a guidance that doesn't originate from the world, but from within your own depths. This reveals another hidden truth about manifestation. Abundance doesn't arrive when you desperately search for it, but when you create space to receive it. Silence is that space, the invisible doorway through which clarity, inspiration, and certainty enter. It's the fertile void where possibilities gestating in the non-physical realm can begin their journey into tangible expression. What happens when you learn to dwell in this silence? Your entire energetic signature transforms. Your presence becomes magnetic in ways you can't intellectually comprehend. You no longer speak from a place of lack or desperation, but from a center of inner authority. And the universe responds differently to this quality of being. I've experienced this shift personally. How after periods of genuine silence, solutions appear effortlessly, creativity flows unbidden, and synchronicities multiply. There was a day when, after an hour in complete silence, an idea emerged from nowhere. That single insight, born not from striving but from the fertile void of silence, completely redirected my financial path, emotional landscape, and spiritual understanding. It didn't come from effort or analysis, but from the rich emptiness of simply being present without the compulsion to fill space with thought. The profound invitation here is to recognize silence not as something to fear or fill, but as your most powerful ally in conscious creation. When you quiet the mental chatter, you're not disconnecting from creative power. You're accessing it in its purest form. You're stepping into the primordial field where all possibilities exist before they're collapsed into specific manifestations by your focused attention. If you're feeling a resonance with this understanding of silence as creative power rather than empty space, write in the comments, "I embrace the power of silence," because acknowledging this relationship with silence is itself a declaration that you're ready to access deeper levels of creative potential, the kind that doesn't need to force or struggle, but simply allows the natural intelligence of life to flow through you unobstructed. This sacred space of silence naturally opens us to one of the most counterintuitive truths about abundance. It rarely arrives when we desperately search for it. Instead, it flows into our lives precisely when we create the inner space to receive it. Most people approach abundance backward, chasing, grasping, accumulating, never realizing that this very pursuit creates an energy of lack that repels the very thing they seek. The revolutionary insight is that abundance is our natural state, but we've built internal barriers that block its flow. Silence is the invisible doorway through which clarity, inspiration, certainty, and yes, abundance naturally enter. It's not merely a spiritual concept, but a practical, energetic reality. When you learn to inhabit this space of receptive stillness, a remarkable transformation occurs. Your entire energetic signature changes. Your presence becomes magnetic in a way that can't be manufactured or imitated. You no longer broadcast the frequency of wanting, you emanate the frequency of having. I witnessed this shift in my own journey when I stopped trying to force abundance through constant action and instead created daily pockets of genuine silence. Within these spaces, solutions appeared effortlessly, opportunities aligned without struggle, and resources manifested with a timing and precision that strategic planning alone could never have orchestrated. What appeared as lucky breaks to others was simply the natural result of aligning with the abundant nature of life itself. This understanding of abundance as a state of being rather than something to acquire leads us to perhaps the most powerful mirror we'll ever encounter, the reflection of our own self-concept. One morning, I stopped in front of my mirror, not to fix my appearance or analyze my reflection as I normally would, but simply to look without judgment or agenda. In that moment, something profound shifted, because for the first time, I saw beyond the physical features to recognize a story, an energy, a dormant creator looking back at me. The mirror revealed something that transcended what I'd been taught to see. During years of conditioning, I believed mirrors showed my appearance, my physical strengths and flaws to be judged. But in that moment of clarity, I understood that mirrors show something far more significant. They reflect back the essence of what I believe I deserve and who I believe myself to be. This revelation transforms how we understand reflection at every level. If you look in the mirror with doubt, you'll see someone insufficient. If you look with judgment, you'll see only flaws. If you look with love, you'll see potential beyond measure. The mirror doesn't lie. It returns precisely the energy you project toward it, and this principle extends far beyond physical reflection. It's operating in every dimension of your life. The world itself functions as a mirror reflecting your inner state. Every person who irritates you reveals an unresolved aspect of yourself. Every opportunity that closes reflects your level of inner trust. Every obstacle you encounter mirrors a power you've forgotten you possess. The universe doesn't punish or reward you, it simply reflects you with perfect accuracy. It doesn't respond to what you say you want, it responds to who you are being as you say it. I discovered this truth that morning when I decided to speak to my reflection differently. Instead of criticism or correction, I acknowledged my reflection with recognition. You are the origin. Everything seen outside is born here. A shiver ran through me as something awakened. I understood in that moment that the power to transform my outer reality began when I transformed how I saw myself. The mirror doesn't change until you do. You can attempt to alter your reflection with countless external actions, but nothing shifts until you look with new eyes, because reality itself is a projection of your self-concept. In that moment, I forgave myself for the years of self-judgment, comparison, and forgetting my essence. And something miraculous happened. The reflection transformed, not through physical change, but through the awakening of a different presence, a living consciousness that recognized itself. That was the first day my world began to change without any external effort on my part. Not because circumstances magically transformed overnight, but because my vibration, my energetic transmission to the universe had fundamentally shifted. And when your vibration changes, the cosmic mirror adjusts accordingly. New people appear, doors open, and abundance ceases to be a distant dream and becomes your natural experience. If you're feeling a resonance with this understanding of the mirror principle in your own life, write in the comments, "I am the creator of my reflection." Because in acknowledging this truth, you're taking the first step toward a profound shift in how reality responds to your presence in it, moving from unconscious creation to conscious authorship of your experience. Now, I want to go even deeper into this reflection principle that governs our experience of reality. This mirror metaphor isn't simply confined to your bathroom wall. It expands to encompass the entire universe around you. Everything you encounter in your daily life is reflecting something within you, offering insights and revelations if you have the wisdom to interpret what you're seeing. Consider this hidden truth. Every person who triggers irritation in you is actually highlighting an unresolved aspect of yourself that's seeking integration. That colleague whose arrogance drives you crazy, they're reflecting the part of you that struggles with self-worth. That friend whose neediness exhausts you, they're mirroring your own unexpressed needs. That stranger whose judgment you fear, they're reflecting your own inner critic back to you. This mirroring happens constantly, often beneath our conscious awareness. Every opportunity that mysteriously closes is reflecting your level of faith in yourself and the universe. Every obstacle you face isn't a punishment, but a reflection of power you've temporarily forgotten you possess. The universe doesn't single you out for hardship or reward. It simply reflects your dominant vibration with perfect, unwavering precision. The profound revelation in this understanding is that your reality isn't happening to you. It's responding to you. When someone betrays your trust, they're not creating your experience. They're reflecting a vibrational expectation you've been broadcasting, often unconsciously. When abundance seems to flow to others but bypass you, it isn't personal. Preference on the part of the universe. It's precise mirroring of your inner relationship with deserving. This mirrors the ancient Hermetic principle, as above, so below, as within, so without. Your external world will always organize itself to reflect your internal landscape. Your relationships mirror how you relate to yourself. Your financial reality mirrors your beliefs about abundance. Your physical well-being mirrors your emotional state. Nothing is separate or disconnected from your consciousness. The life-changing breakthrough occurs when you realize the immense power hidden within this principle. If everything is a reflection, then changing the reflection begins with changing yourself. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manipulate external circumstances while maintaining the same internal state, essentially attempting to change their reflection by moving the mirror rather than changing what's being reflected. True transformation works in precisely the opposite direction. The power to completely transform your life begins when you transform how you see yourself. The mirror cannot change until you change what stands before it. You can try 1,000 external actions to alter your reflection, changing jobs, relationships, locations, but nothing substantial shifts until you look at yourself with different eyes, because reality itself is a projection of your self-concept. I experienced this firsthand during a period of profound struggle. Everything seemed to be working against me. Relationships deteriorating, opportunities vanishing, problems multiplying. I exhausted myself trying to fix each external circumstance until I finally understood. They weren't separate problems. They were reflections of a single internal state. The day I focused on changing my relationship with myself rather than changing my circumstances, the external world began responding differently. This inner transformation doesn't happen through positive thinking alone. It requires a fundamental shift in identity, in who you believe yourself to be at the core. When you forgive yourself for past mistakes, when you release the need for external validation, when you reclaim disowned aspects of yourself, when you embrace your inherent worthiness, you literally change what the universe has to reflect back to you. The journey of self-transformation isn't always comfortable. Looking honestly at yourself requires courage. Owning your projections demands humility. Releasing old identities creates temporary disorientation. But on the other side of this inner work lies a freedom most people never experience, the freedom that comes from recognizing yourself as the creator rather than the victim of your circumstances. Every time you change an aspect of your inner world, a belief, a thought pattern, an emotional habit, you initiate a ripple effect that eventually transforms your entire external reality, not because you've manipulated circumstances into submission, but because you've changed what the cosmic mirror must reflect. If this understanding of yourself as the originator of your experience resonates with you, write in the comments, "I am the author of my reality," because claiming this authorship is the first step in consciously crafting a new reflection throughout your life. This understanding of yourself as the author of your reality naturally brings us to a pivotal threshold in the awakening journey, a point where external guidance reaches its limit. There comes a moment on the path of transformation where words alone no longer serve you. Not books, not advice, not even the most eloquent prayers or affirmations. At this threshold, only one thing can guide you forward: silence, that sacred space where the soul whispers truths that the mind has been too afraid to hear. I encountered this threshold during a period of profound searching. The night was still, with only the wind gently tapping against my window. My mind was filled with noise, worries about what was missing, fears about what I might lose. Then I made a simple but revolutionary decision. I turned everything off. No music, no phone, no distractions, just myself and the seeming emptiness. But that emptiness wasn't empty at all. It began to speak to me, not with words, but with a sensation, a vibration that enveloped me and seemed to say, "Here I am, I've always been here. You just needed to quiet yourself to hear me." That was the moment I understood a truth that would forever alter my path, A noisy mind blocks the messages of the soul, and the soul doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers when you stop, when you breathe, when you choose to look within rather than constantly seeking outside yourself. In that silence, I discovered that every thought I'd been broadcasting to the universe was indeed a command. But the more I talked, the more disorder I created, because mental noise confuses the energy, while the energy only obeys a clear mind. Silence is the key that unlocks the door to inner knowledge. Those who learn to navigate it access a power that the modern world has largely forgotten. In silence, the mind aligns itself. In silence, energy cleanses and purifies. In silence, the soul finally reveals what it has always known. Consider how the most important decisions of your life didn't come from endless debate or discussion, but from a moment of absolute clarity. That instant when something within you simply knew, beyond logic, beyond fear, beyond doubt. That was your higher mind speaking to you. And when you learn to live from that voice, you stop merely reacting to circumstances and begin consciously creating them. But to hear this voice, you must first quiet everything else, the voices of fear, comparison, and the constant need to prove yourself or seek validation. Because every internal word you repeat, every thought you sustain, is an order to the universe. If you say, "I can't," you're sealing your fate. If you say, "I will succeed," the universe begins to move. And if you maintain silence with intention, that silence becomes a vibrational command that attracts what you desire without uttering a single word. The ancients understood this profound truth. Silence is the language of the gods. This is why sages meditated, prophets retreated to the desert, and the most powerful leaders experience moments of absolute stillness before making decisions. True mental mastery isn't about talking to yourself more forcefully. It's about talking less, but with greater truth. When you master your silence, your thoughts become precise, your emotions obedient, and your actions flow without resistance. You're no longer divided, no longer doubtful, no longer seeking approval. You become aligned, and that alignment is naturally magnetic. People feel drawn to you without understanding why. Your projects flow more easily, money appears when needed, opportunities multiply, because the universe doesn't respond to noise, it responds to vibration, and silence carries the purest vibration of all. This revelation completely transformed how I approached manifestation. Instead of constantly affirming what I wanted, I began creating spaces of intentional silence, moments where I stopped asking and simply listened. And in that listening, the solutions that had eluded me for years suddenly appeared with perfect clarity. The path that seemed hidden revealed itself not through more seeking, but through becoming still enough to see what was already there. Silence isn't the absence of power, but its most concentrated form. In the same way that empty space is what makes a wheel functional or a room usable, the silent spaces in your consciousness are what allow new possibilities to enter. If the whisper of your own soul calling you to greater silence resonates with you now, write in the comments, "I am learning to listen." Because acknowledging this new relationship with silence is the first step toward accessing the wisdom that's been waiting for you all along. As we cultivate this relationship with silence, we naturally begin to encounter another profound dimension of awakening, the discovery of true internal fire. There was a time in my journey when I believed that motivation and inspiration could only come from outside sources, from reading the right book, attending an inspiring talk, or hearing someone say, "You can do it." I chased these external sparks constantly, always needing another dose of motivation to keep moving forward. But then something unexpected happened. One day, all those external fires went out. The inspirational quotes stopped working. The motivational videos lost their effect. The encouraging words from others fell flat. I found myself in a place of emptiness that initially felt like failure, until I discovered that this apparent void was actually an invitation to encounter the real fire, the one that had been burning within me all along. This internal fire is fundamentally different from external. Motivation. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't seek applause or validation. It simply burns steadily and consistently through darkness and light, through success and failure, through recognition and obscurity. This is the fire that doesn't depend on circumstances because it precedes and transcends them. What I came to understand is that this internal fire isn't something you need to create or manufacture. It's a force that activates naturally when your soul remembers. It's purpose. It's the energy that awakens when the authentic part of you recognizes why you're here and what you're meant to contribute. Unlike external motivation that requires constant replenishment, this fire is self-sustaining because it's connected directly to your essence. The revelation that changed everything for me was recognizing that this fire isn't fueled by ambition or desire for recognition, but by alignment with something deeper, a connection to that divine voice within that whispers, "I am the power that creates." When you tap into this source, you're no longer dependent on external validation or permission. You're drawing from a wellspring that has existed within you from the beginning. What's fascinating about this internal fire is how it transforms not just your inner landscape, but your entire presence in the world. When you recognize and align with it, something tangible shifts. Your steps become firmer. Your voice carries a new certainty. Your energy vibrates at a higher frequency. This isn't about artificial confidence or practiced charisma. It's the natural radiation of someone who has reconnected with their core power. I discovered this fire one night when all external sources of inspiration had dried up. It was like a subtle spark, a gentle vibration in my chest, a warm sensation that seemed to say, "Enough looking outside. Everything you seek is right here." The internal fire doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It speaks in the language of certainty, a quiet knowing that doesn't need to prove itself or convince anyone else. This fire is the force that activates when your soul remembers what it came here to do. It doesn't depend on circumstances, luck, or recognition from others. It's the pure essence of your being expressing itself without filters or fears. When you recognize it, everything changes, not because your external world immediately transforms, but because you begin to move through that world differently. Your perception shifts from seeing obstacles to seeing opportunities. Your response to challenges comes from empowerment rather than victimhood. The profound shift occurs when you realize that you don't need to seek motivation. You need only to remove what's blocking your natural fire from expressing itself. Those blocks are usually fears, limiting beliefs, old stories, and the accumulated weight of conforming to expectations that were never truly yours. Each time you release one of these blockages, your internal fire burns more brightly, illuminating not just your path, but often the paths of others around you. This fire, once recognized, becomes the compass that guides every meaningful decision. It doesn't destroy indiscriminately, it purifies. It burns away excuses, outdated beliefs, inherited fears, leaving only what's essential, your essence. Understanding that you don't need external permission to shine is perhaps the most liberating realization on the path of awakening. If you can feel that internal fire beginning to stir within you now, write in the comments, "My internal fire is awakening," because acknowledging this flame is the first step in allowing it to transform everything in your life from the inside out. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this internal fire guides us to one of the most profound revelations on the awakening journey, the discovery of the invisible door that stands between who we are and who we're meant to become. For years, I walked in front of this door, without recognizing it. I couldn't see it with my physical eyes, but I could feel it, a subtle yet persistent barrier separating what I dreamed of from what I was actually living. This invisible threshold created a particular kind of suffering, the pain of sensing that something more authentic and expansive was possible, while feeling mysteriously blocked from experiencing it. I would catch glimpses of my potential, brief moments of clarity about what my life could be, only to find myself repeatedly unable to sustain that vision or translate it into lived reality. Then one day, in the middle of a profound silence, one of those rare moments when the mind finally surrenders its constant commentary, I heard a phrase emerge with unmistakable clarity. The door isn't outside, it's in your perception. This wasn't an external voice, but a truth arising from the depths of my own awareness. In that moment, I understood something that would forever transform my relationship with limitation. The universe wasn't denying me anything. I was the one keeping the entrance closed with my thoughts. The revelation was both humbling and liberating. The invisible door I'd been searching for, knocking on and sometimes raging against, wasn't built of external circumstances at all. It wasn't constructed from lack of opportunity, insufficient resources, or the actions of others. The door was mental, created and sustained by my perception of what was possible for me, what I deserved, and who I believed myself to be. This invisible threshold doesn't separate failure from success, as most people think. More fundamentally, it divides ignorance from consciousness, the unconscious creation of our reality from the conscious authorship of our experience. On one side of this doorway, we live as victims of circumstance, on the other as creators of possibility. And this doorway opens with just one element: decision. But here lies another layer of understanding that most miss. The decision required to open this door isn't the casual, conditional kind we make daily. It's not a weak intention or a promise that dissolves at the first sign of difficulty. The decision that transforms is absolute, a total commitment engraved in the soul and vibrating through every cell of the body. It's the kind of decision where you don't leave yourself an escape route or backup plan. I discovered the power of this level of decision on a day when all my previous strategies had failed. I stood, metaphorically, before this invisible door, exhausted from trying to force it open through willpower alone. That's when I realized that what was required wasn't more effort, but a different kind of surrender. Not giving up, but giving in to a deeper truth about who I really was and what was possible. That day I decided mentally, but also somatically. I felt the decision in my body, in my breath, in the subtle energy flowing through me. I decided without knowing how the path would unfold, without needing guarantees, without requiring the fear to disappear first. I simply stepped through the doorway in my mind, and something remarkable happened. Reality began responding differently. What makes this mental doorway so fascinating is that we all stand before it multiple times throughout our lives. It appears whenever we're ready to evolve to our next level of consciousness. The door shows up as that boundary between comfort and growth, between the familiar identity we've constructed and the authentic self waiting to emerge. Sometimes it manifests as a career transition, sometimes as a relationship pattern that needs breaking, sometimes as a creative calling that terrifies us. The breakthrough understanding is that you don't need to dismantle this door piece by piece through endless analysis or preparation. You simply need to recognize it for what it is, a threshold of perception, and make the decision to step through. Not someday, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances align perfectly, but now, in this moment, with whatever resources you currently have. If you've been sensing an invisible door in your own life, feeling that mysterious barrier between your current reality and what you know is possible, write in the comments. I'm ready to cross my threshold. Because naming this readiness is itself an act of power, the first vibration of a decision that can quite literally transform how reality responds to your presence. When we step through that invisible door of decision, we encounter perhaps the most profound revelation on the awakening journey, the discovery that you've always possessed an inner map guiding your path. This isn't a map drawn on paper with visible routes and landmarks. It's a subtle design engraved upon your soul long before your birth, an intricate blueprint marking every significant turn, every necessary lesson, every meaningful encounter you're meant to experience. Most people live their entire lives without ever glimpsing this map. They navigate existence feeling adrift, making choices based purely on external factors, always questioning if they're on the right path. But the map remains hidden, not because it's absent, but because we're looking for it with the wrong faculty. This divine blueprint isn't revealed to the physical eyes or even to the analytical mind. It's unveiled only to consciousness itself, to the awakened awareness that recognizes patterns beyond logic. I discovered this truth during a period when everything in my life seemed to be falling apart. What appeared as random chaos slowly revealed itself as perfectly orchestrated guidance. In that moment of surrender, I realized something that forever changed how I viewed my journey. My soul has always had direction. Nothing in my path has been random. Despite feeling lost countless times, I was never truly adrift. This revelation transforms how we interpret our entire life story. Each decision you've ever made, even those you currently judge as mistakes or failures, forms an essential part of that perfect layout. The relationship that ended painfully, the career path that didn't work out, the opportunity that vanished unexpectedly, these weren't cosmic punishments or evidence of your inadequacy. They were precise coordinates on your soul's map, guiding you exactly where you needed to go next. When viewed from a higher perspective, suffering, delays, unexpected encounters, even profound losses all carry meaning within this grand design. Everything makes sense when you can see the complete map, but therein lies the challenge. To perceive this map requires a different kind of seeing, a remembering that transcends intellectual understanding. This remembering isn't a function of thinking, it's a function of feeling. Remembering your soul's map happens when you reconnect with that silent force that guides you from within, that intuitive knowing that nudges you towards certain paths and away from others. It speaks through sensations in your body, through dreams, through synchronicities that can't be logically explained, through that subtle vibration that signals yes or no beneath your conscious thoughts. I learned this distinction through profound trial and error. When I approached my path through mental analysis alone, weighing pros and cons, making logical calculations of risk and reward, I often found myself moving in circles or hitting walls of resistance. But when I paused long enough to feel the deeper current carrying my life, to sense the underlying pattern beneath the apparent chaos, clarity emerged without effort. Your intuition is the compass, your emotions are the terrain signals, and your inner silence is the guide that never misleads. The revolutionary understanding is that you don't need to create your path, you need only to remember it. Your soul knows the way forward, just as a river knows how to find the ocean. The water doesn't question the curves in its journey. It simply flows with trust that each bend serves its ultimate destination. What if you could approach your life with this same trust? What if, instead of fighting against the current when things don't go as planned, you could recognize these redirections as essential navigational adjustments on your soul's journey? This doesn't mean passive acceptance of circumstances, but rather a profound surrender to a higher intelligence that's orchestrating your growth with far greater wisdom than your limited perspective can comprehend. Next, Time you face a crossroads or find yourself in uncertain terrain, try this approach. Instead of frantically seeking answers outside yourself, become still and ask, what does my soul already know about this situation? Then listen, not for a voice, but for that feeling of alignment that signals recognition. If you're sensing that inner knowing starting to awaken now, that recognition of a greater pattern unfolding through your life, write in the comments, I trust my soul's map, because acknowledging this trust is the first step toward navigating life with the profound confidence that comes from remembering rather than doubting your path. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens when we begin to trust and flow with this inner map. When you learn to inhabit that space of trust and remembering, something extraordinary unfolds. You discover the precise point where creation itself is born. This isn't merely a conceptual understanding, it's a lived experience of touching the very source from which abundance, intuition, and divine strength naturally manifest in your life. This sacred point of creation doesn't exist somewhere out in the cosmos. It's found in that quiet center within you where the noise of the world falls away and only truth remains. When you regularly return to this space through presence and surrender, your perception undergoes a fundamental shift. In silence, you begin to hear pathways and possibilities that were always available, but previously ignored because they didn't fit your limited concept of how life should unfold. You start recognizing signals and synchronicities that once seemed like mere coincidences, but now reveal themselves as deliberate breadcrumbs on your path. A book falling from a shelf catches your attention. A conversation with a stranger contains exactly the insight you needed. A delay that initially frustrated you leads to an unexpected encounter that changes everything. These aren't random events, but precise communications from a universe that's constantly guiding you toward your highest expression. Most profoundly, you begin to feel guidance that doesn't originate from external authorities, cultural conditioning, or logical analysis, but wells up from within your own depths. This guidance has a distinctly different quality from ordinary thinking. It arrives with a quiet certainty that requires no defense or justification. It simply knows, and when you act from this knowing, your path unfolds with a grace and ease that strategic planning alone could never achieve. I experienced this transformation when I stopped fighting against my life's unexpected turns and began to see them as essential navigational adjustments. What once appeared as setbacks revealed themselves as setups for breakthrough. The relationship that ended created space for a deeper connection. The career path that closed led to a calling that would have remained undiscovered otherwise. The financial challenge catalyzed creativity and resourcefulness I didn't know I possessed. This flowing state doesn't mean passively accepting whatever comes. Rather, it's active surrender to a higher intelligence, a collaboration between your conscious intentions and the greater wisdom orchestrating your journey. You're still fully engaged, making choices and taking action, but without the friction that comes from fighting the current of your own evolution. The catalyst that activates this flow state is always the same: a real decision. Everything meaningful begins at the precise moment you make a decision that isn't just words or wishes floating in the air, but a fundamental break with your past that screams from deep within your being, I've come this far, and I will go no further down this old path. This kind of decision has a different vibration than ordinary choices. It doesn't negotiate with fear or make excuses for delay. It doesn't require perfect conditions or outside validation. It rises from the depths of your being with such clarity and force that it immediately begins reorganizing both your internal landscape and external reality to align with this new direction. I've witnessed this transformative power of decision in countless lives, including my own. When someone truly decides, not from desperation but from awakened consciousness, mountains that seemed immovable suddenly reveal passages through them. People who embody the exact support needed appear as if summoned. Resources that weren't visible before become available. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of aligning your conscious intentions with the deeper currents of your soul's journey. The revelation that most never grasp is that life opens its fullest possibilities only for those who decide, not for those who wait. Waiting for perfect conditions, complete clarity, or absolute certainty is a subtle form of resistance that keeps you locked in potential rather than expression. The universe responds to movement, to that first courageous step taken before you can see the entire staircase. If you're sensing that inner prompting toward a decision that would fundamentally alter your trajectory, write in the comments, "I choose a new direction." Because verbalizing this choice is itself a powerful act of alignment with the next phase of your soul's unfolding map. This understanding of decision as the catalyst of transformation leads us to a profound revelation about how the universe actually responds to us. Despite what many spiritual teachers and manifestation experts claim, the universe doesn't primarily move according to your intentions, wishes, or hopes. It moves in response to your decisions. This distinction is revolutionary when fully grasped. You can spend years immersed in spiritual knowledge, read 1,000 books on manifestation, repeat affirmations from dawn until dusk, visualize until you've created entire mental movies of your desired future. But if you don't make the fundamental decision to act from a new identity, everything remains in the realm of theory and potential. The bridge between knowledge and transformation is always decision. I discovered this truth after accumulating vast amounts of spiritual information that initially changed nothing in my external reality. I knew all the right concepts, could explain the principles eloquently to others, but continued experiencing the same patterns and limitations. The missing element wasn't more knowledge, it was embodied decision, the point where my mind and spirit finally aligned in the same direction without contradiction or hidden reservation. That alignment point is where the magic happens. It's the instant when the universe recognizes that you're no longer divided against yourself, no longer saying one thing while believing another, no longer desiring a new reality while identifying with the old one. When your entire being coheres around a single intention, you create an energetic command that the universe cannot help but respond to. This brings us directly to what I call the mirror principle, perhaps the most important understanding for anyone seeking to consciously create their reality. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you reflect. It doesn't respond to your prayers, visualizations, or affirmations if those outer practices aren't matched by your inner vibration. You can repeat abundance 1,000 times daily, but if your energy field resonates with scarcity, the universe can only reflect back experiences of not enough. This explains why two people can engage in identical manifestation practices with radically different results. One person visualizes prosperity while feeling unworthy beneath the surface, receiving minimal results. Another visualizes the same outcome but has addressed their underlying beliefs about deserving, experiencing rapid manifestation. The difference isn't in the technique, but in the energetic transmission. The hidden truth that transformed my own manifestation journey was recognizing that I don't attract what I want, I attract what I am. My reality wasn't reflecting my desires, it was perfectly mirroring my self-concept, my deepest beliefs, and my habitual emotional states. Once I shifted my focus from changing my external circumstances to changing my internal state of being, my experience began transforming with an almost effortless grace. If you say you want financial freedom while internally Identifying as someone who struggles with money, the universe can only respond to your dominant vibration, which isn't your conscious wish, but your subconscious identity. If you declare you want loving relationships while harboring beliefs about being unworthy of love, your experience will reflect the stronger energy. This isn't punishment, it's precise mirroring. The revolutionary approach to manifestation isn't about perfecting your techniques, but about aligning your entire being, conscious and unconscious, with what you wish to create. This means doing the deeper work of transformation, releasing limiting beliefs, healing emotional patterns, and cultivating states of being that match your desires. When you shift from wanting to being, you create a completely different energetic command. Think about it this way: the universe isn't giving you what you deserve or what you've earned, concepts that imply judgment. It's simply reflecting back to you with perfect accuracy the vibration you're broadcasting. This understanding removes blame and victim consciousness while empowering you to take full responsibility for your energetic transmission to life. If this understanding of yourself as the originator of your experience resonates with you, write in the comments, "I am the broadcaster," because recognizing yourself as the source of the signal, rather than the receiver of random circumstances, is the first step toward conscious creation of a reality that truly reflects your highest vision. Now, I want to go even deeper into the mechanics of how this vibrational matching actually works in our daily experience. When we understand this principle fully, we gain unprecedented power to transform our reality from the inside out. If you say you want abundance, but your thoughts consistently revolve around scarcity, worrying about bills, focusing on what you lack, feeling anxiety about the future, you're actually broadcasting the vibration of lack to the universe. Despite your conscious desires, your energetic transmission is centered on not enough, and that's precisely what life must reflect back to you. Similarly, if you claim to want deep, fulfilling love relationships, but your actions and emotional patterns stem from fear of abandonment or unworthiness, you're vibrating rejection at an energetic level. The universe doesn't hear your verbal requests for love. It responds to the emotional frequency of your being, which in this case communicates, "Keep love away," or "Prove I'm unlovable." This isn't punishment, but perfect reflection. And if you declare that you want success while greeting each morning with subtle or obvious self-doubt, questioning whether you have what it takes, wondering if you deserve achievement, the universe can only respond with more opportunities to doubt yourself, often disguised as obstacles, setbacks, or evidence that confirms your limited self-concept. The universe is simply holding up a mirror to your dominant vibration. This understanding reveals why traditional approaches to manifestation often fall short. Affirmations alone cannot override your vibrational frequency if they're merely words layered over contradictory beliefs. Visualization techniques remain ineffective if your emotional state doesn't match the images you're creating. Vision boards become mere decorations if your energy field isn't aligned with what they depict. The revelation that transformed my own creative process was discovering that authentic transformation requires vibrational alignment before physical manifestation can occur. I stopped trying to manipulate external circumstances and instead focused on becoming a vibrational match for what I desired. This shift from doing to being created a quantum leap in how reality responded to me. This brings us to the revolutionary concept of active faith, the most powerful creative force available to us. Active faith isn't the passive waiting for something to happen that many mistake it for. It's not hoping, wishing, or praying that external forces will somehow intervene in your favor. Active faith is moving through the world with absolute certainty that what you've declared is already happening, even when physical evidence hasn't yet appeared. Many people confuse faith with hope, but they operate at completely different frequencies. Hope observes from a distance, wondering if something might occur. Faith decides with conviction that it is occurring, even if invisible to the physical eyes. Hope says, "I wish this would happen." Faith declares, "This is happening now and I'm acting accordingly." That distinction changes everything about how the universe responds. I discovered this distinction during a period when every external circumstance in my life contradicted what I claimed to believe. I had been practicing what I thought was faith, but was actually sophisticated hoping, mentally affirming possibilities while emotionally remaining uncertain. The breakthrough came when I stopped closing my eyes to visualize a better future and instead opened my soul to live as if that future were already present. Active faith doesn't deny current circumstances. It simply refuses to be defined by them. It acknowledges present conditions while simultaneously holding an unshakable knowing that a new reality is already in motion. This isn't delusional thinking. It's recognizing that the physical world always follows the energetic blueprint established by consciousness. When you embody active faith, you don't need external validation to maintain your certainty. You don't require proof before believing. You understand that proof follows belief rather than preceding it. This inverted relationship between evidence and faith is what distinguishes master manifestors from casual practitioners. They know that physical reality is always catching up to what has already been established in consciousness. The practical application of this understanding is profound. Start living today as if what you've declared is already complete. Not as a technique or visualization exercise, but as an embodied knowing that infuses every action, decision, and interaction. If this understanding of faith as active creation rather than passive waiting resonates with your journey, write in the comments, "I am activating my faith," because naming this shift from observer to creator is itself a powerful declaration that alters how the universe responds to your presence. This understanding of active faith naturally leads us to explore the crucial bridge that connects the invisible realm of faith with the visible world of manifestation. There exists a profound synergy that most seekers miss. Faith without action remains merely a wish, floating in the ethereal realms without anchoring into physical reality. Yet equally true is that action without faith becomes blind effort, movement without direction, striving without the magnetic pull of certainty. The revelation that transformed my understanding came when I realized these aren't separate forces, but two aspects of the same creative power. When faith and action unite, when your internal certainty and external behaviors align perfectly, creation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. It's the sacred marriage that births new realities. Look behind the scenes of every great innovation, movement, or transformation throughout history. The visionaries, mystics, artists, and leaders who fundamentally changed our world shared a singular quality. They didn't wait to see in order to believe. They believed first, which enabled them to see what others couldn't perceive. This inverted relationship with reality is the hidden blueprint of masterful creation. I witnessed this principle at work during a pivotal moment in my own journey. I had been holding a vision of what seemed impossible given my circumstances at the time. The breakthrough came not when I perfected my visualization technique, but when I began acting in complete alignment with my inner knowing, making decisions, speaking words, and taking steps that made no logical sense from my current position, but aligned perfectly with where I knew I was headed. This isn't about forcing outcomes through willpower. It's about recognizing that true creation happens at the intersection where your invisible faith meets your visible actions. Neither alone is sufficient. The bridge between them is built through consistent, aligned choices that reflect your certainty rather than your current circumstances. Now, I want to go even deeper into a transformative practice that few truly understand: anticipated gratitude. Most people think of gratitude as an emotional response that naturally follows receiving something positive. You get a gift, then you feel thankful. But those who have mastered manifestation understand that gratitude isn't merely an emotion, it's an energetic key that unlocks portals between dimensions that the logical mind can never comprehend. The revolutionary approach practiced by conscious creators is to express gratitude before receiving, to thank the universe in advance for what has been declared, even when no physical evidence exists. This isn't pretending or affirmation. It's operating from a higher dimension of consciousness where time is non-linear and what you've claimed already exists in completed form. When you give thanks in advance, you're not just expressing faith, you're broadcasting the energetic signature of already having received. This sends the clearest possible signal to the universe: I already have it. And the universe, which responds to vibration rather than words, recognizes this as a command rather than a request. I experienced the power of this practice during a period when everything in my external reality contradicted what I was claiming. Rather than begging or pleading for change, I began thanking the universe each morning for already providing exactly what I needed, as if it had already happened. This wasn't denial of current circumstances, but transcendence of them through consciousness. What makes anticipated gratitude so powerful is that it creates a particular vibrational frequency impossible to access through any other emotional state. You cannot simultaneously feel genuine gratitude and lack. You cannot authentically experience thankfulness while vibrating fear. Gratitude immediately shifts your frequency to one that matches receiving rather than wanting. Most people wait to feel grateful until after their desires manifest, not realizing this inverted causality. Gratitude doesn't follow manifestation, it precedes it. The grateful heart magnetizes experiences to be grateful for. When you thank the universe in advance, you're not being delusional. You're operating from a level of consciousness where time folds, and what you've claimed in spirit is already completed in essence, if not yet in form. If you feel drawn to experiment with this profound practice of giving thanks before physical evidence appears, write in the comments, "I practice anticipated gratitude." Because making this declaration is itself a powerful act that signals your readiness to operate from a new level of creative consciousness. The transformative power of anticipated gratitude extends far beyond simple positive thinking. It fundamentally alters your relationship with manifestation at the quantum level. When you thank in advance, you're not merely expressing wishful thinking or practicing an affirmation technique. You're transmitting the energetic signature of absolute certainty. This is a crucial distinction because the universe responds to certainty, not as a request to be considered, but as an order to be fulfilled. Think about how differently these energies feel. A request carries the vibration of asking, which inherently contains the possibility of denial. An order, however, carries the vibration of command. It assumes fulfillment as the only possible outcome. When you give thanks without physically having yet received, you're creating what I call a possession vibration, a frequency that declares on the invisible plane that what you desire has already been delivered and is simply making its way to you through the necessary channels of manifestation. I experienced this revelation during a particularly challenging financial period. Instead of focusing on what was lacking or asking for more resources, I began my days with profound gratitude for the abundance I had declared, speaking of it, feeling it, and acting from it as if it had already manifested. What followed wasn't just a shift in my circumstances, but a complete reconfiguration of how opportunities, resources, and synchronicities organized themselves around me. The paradox many discover is that genuine gratitude cannot be manufactured or pretended. It must arise from that deeper place of knowing. Yet when it does emerge authentically, even before physical evidence appears, it creates an energetic template that the physical world must eventually conform to. This is how the masters have always manifested, not through forcing or manipulating reality, but by establishing such clear vibrational patterns that manifestation becomes the natural consequence. Now, I want to go even deeper into perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of conscious creation, the power of detachment. Most people miss this crucial understanding completely, continuing to chase their desires with increasing desperation while unknowingly blocking the very things they seek. Attachment is truly the subtlest chain of the soul. It's not always consciously noticed, but it always weighs on your creative capacity. This attachment operates as an invisible thread that unites your desire with the fear of losing it or never attaining it. And here's the hidden mechanism that sabotages so many manifestations. When fear adheres to desire, when wanting becomes needing, the universe mysteriously stops moving. It's as if the cosmic forces pause, waiting for you to release the stranglehold of attachment before they can deliver what you've asked for. The crucial understanding that transformed my own manifestation practice was recognizing that detachment isn't indifference, giving up or stopping the dream. It's something far more sophisticated, the release of control over how and when your desire manifests. Detachment is trusting so completely in the intelligence orchestrating the universe that you can close your eyes and continue walking, knowing the path will appear beneath your feet. Imagine a bird trying to grasp the air that supports its flight. If it attempts to clutch the wind, it falls. But when it extends its wings and allows the air to flow freely, it soars. This is precisely how detachment functions in the manifestation process. You don't abandon your desires, you simply release the desperate clutching that blocks their natural unfolding. I learned this principle through painful trial and error. For years, I practiced visualization and affirmation while simultaneously vibrating anxiety about outcomes and timing. I would declare abundance while internally questioning if it would ever arrive. I would affirm relationships while fearing abandonment. This contradiction created energetic stagnation, like pressing the accelerator and brake simultaneously, generating heat and noise but no forward movement. The breakthrough came when I understood that excessive control doesn't demonstrate power, it reveals distrust. When we micromanage the universe with our anxiety and attachment, we're essentially saying, I don't believe you can handle this without my constant supervision. This distrust communicates to the universe, I don't think this can happen without my intervention, and the universe respectfully steps back, waiting for your permission to move again. If you're recognizing this pattern of attachment in your own manifestation journey, if you're sensing how your grip on desired outcomes might actually be delaying them, write in the comments, I'm practicing sacred detachment, because acknowledging this subtle shift from desperate wanting to trusting, allowing marks a profound evolution in your creative relationship with the universe. Now, I want to go even deeper into the transformative mechanics of detachment and how it fundamentally alters the flow of creative energy in your life. There exists a profound paradox at the heart of manifestation that few truly understand. When you finally let go, when you release the white-knuckled grip on your desires, energy begins to flow with astonishing ease. But when you insist with fear, clinging desperately to particular outcomes or timelines, that same energy becomes blocked, creating the very delays and frustrations you were trying to avoid. This reveals a counterintuitive truth about the nature of control itself. What most people experience as control, the micromanagement of circumstances, the Anxious tracking of progress, the constant reassessment of whether things are happening correctly, isn't actually power at all. It's distrust disguised as diligence. When we operate this way, we're essentially communicating to the universe, I don't believe this can happen without my constant intervention and supervision, and the universe, honoring our free will, pauses its movement, waiting for permission to work its natural magic. I discovered this principle during a period when I was trying so hard to manifest a particular outcome that I'd created a state of energetic gridlock in my life. Nothing was moving. Opportunities disappeared as quickly as they emerged. Resources remained tantalizingly out of reach. The breakthrough came when I recognized that my desperate control wasn't helping. It was the very source of the stagnation. The moment I genuinely surrendered, not in defeat, but in trust, something remarkable happened. The universal forces that had seemed frozen suddenly began to move again. Solutions appeared effortlessly, resources flowed from unexpected sources, synchronicities multiplied, not because I had stopped caring about my desires, but because I had released the energetic interference that my fear-based control was creating. Think of it like this. The universe doesn't respond to effort as much as it responds to flow. When you're in a state of trust, when you've made your declaration clear but released attachment to exactly how it must unfold, you create a frictionless channel for manifestation. Your energy becomes like a river that has been unblocked, moving with natural force rather than constant struggle. This journey through the principles of conscious creation, from awakening to purpose, from decision to faith, from gratitude to detachment, represents a sacred path walked by seekers throughout the ages. You've traversed landscapes of fire, confronted mirrors that revealed uncomfortable truths, and navigated shadows that contained forgotten aspects of yourself. You've faced your subtlest fears and discovered that the power you've been seeking was never something to be found externally, but remembered internally. And now, the circle begins to close. What appeared at first as a book of knowledge reveals itself as something far more profound, a mirror of the soul, reflecting back to you what you've always known, but temporarily forgotten. Each principle we've explored, the creative power of the mind, the transformative nature of faith, the alchemical force of your words, the magnetic field of gratitude, the liberating power of detachment. These aren't separate techniques, but pieces of an ancient code, a unified system of conscious creation that only the brave can fully decipher and embody. The journey of awakening isn't about accumulating more information or mastering complex spiritual technologies. It's about remembering the creator you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning, limitation, and forgetting. Each step on this path has been leading you back to the center of your own being, the point from which all creation flows. As we continue to explore the final pieces of this sacred wisdom, consider how differently you might now approach the creative process in your life. Not from desperate striving, but from centered knowing, not from anxious attachment, but from trusting allowance. If you're beginning to sense this shift in your own relationship with manifestation, write in the comments, I trust the flow. Because acknowledging this trust is itself a declaration that alters how the universe responds to your presence. You've journeyed with me through the labyrinth of awakening, through fears and decisions, through silence and fire, through the mirror that reflects not just your face, but your soul's deepest truth. And if you've come this far, it's not by chance. Something within you recognized these words not as new information, but as a remembering of what your soul has always known. The path we've walked together isn't finished with this video. It's merely the beginning of a remembering that will continue to unfold in your life as you apply these principles, as you embrace the creative power of your thoughts, as you make decisions with your entire being, as you practice gratitude before evidence appears, as you release attachment while maintaining vision. I believe these messages find exactly who needs them, exactly when they need them. If this journey of awakening has illuminated something within you, if you felt that subtle resonance of recognition as we explored these ancient truths, I'd love to continue walking alongside you. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and you'll receive more of these reflections that serve not as teaching, but as remembrance of the power you've always carried. The community forming around these conversations is unlike any other. Individuals committed not just to personal transformation, but to awakening to their role as conscious creators of reality. Your presence adds to this field of remembering that we're building together. If you've made it to the end of this journey and felt its message was meant specifically for you, write in the comments, "I am awakening." Those 3 words are themselves a declaration that sets energy in motion. And if you found value in this exploration, leaving a like creates ripples that extend far beyond what you might imagine. It's not just about supporting this message. It's about signaling to others that these conversations about consciousness and creation matter in a world often focused solely on the surface of life. Our journey together continues in the video you'll see appearing now, where we explore how these principles of conscious creation apply specifically to breaking through the invisible barriers that have been holding your true potential captive. The perfect complement to what we've discussed today. Click and join me there as we take these universal principles and apply them to the specific challenges and opportunities in your life right now. Remember, you didn't find these words by accident. The awakening journey you're on isn't random wandering, but a sacred remembering of who you've always been. And I'm honored to be walking alongside you as you reclaim the creator that has always lived within.